Welcome back, everyone, to the Functional Code. We're excited to bring you guys today another episode. Today, Doc and I are going to be talking about tracking your health, but this time we're going to talk about how to build the ultimate performance dashboard. So please stay tuned. As always, I am Dr. Addy.
And I am Dr. Jace. Yeah, when we were putting some of this stuff together, we're thinking, how can we incorporate long-term longevity into your guys' everyday life? Now, this actually makes you actually build this yourself. Listen, follow along. We'll have examples and go through all the specifics. But you actually have to put the work in, which is unfortunate, but it will help long-term. And then it's the easy tracking with using some of the AI software and stuff as we dive into some.
But it's easier than we're making it sound, because if you can gather all the data yourself, it's really just a minute or two a day of communicating with the dashboard.
Yes.
And then it can be obviously much easier. But yeah, in the beginning, there's some data collection. But again, the information that you receive is so helpful long-term when we're tracking health.
100%. And we can use, like for us in the examples table, we're going to be talking about Whoop a little bit, like we've talked on many other times. If you have a Garmin, if you have any other AI trackable devices that has a spreadsheet and can break down a bunch of different factors, you'll need that as you build this dashboard out as we move forward. So, Doc, diving into what things everyone should track and essentially why. Right now in 2026, moving forward into the long-term future, even if people were collecting this information 50, 60 years ago, this would also still be very relevant itself.
It would be. And it's interesting to see how this data collection is changing over time. Obviously, it's been much easier with wearables technology, which is helpful. Most people used to wear what's called a pedometer on their pocket, which just tracked your steps. Back in the day, we had those in gym class, actually. We were taught how to do that. If you're probably under the age of 25, I doubt you remember or even had to use a pedometer. But the main things that I think most people are tracking is they want to see what their steps are, which I think is helpful. Most patients, we used to think 10,000 was the number to get through. Recent research came out and said even 7,000 carries meaningful weight to improving your health. But, you know, shoot for that 7 to 10 range. More than 10, you're killing it. Most people should be tracking steps, tracking your weight. Again, that's one that I think most people have a scale in their bathroom. They try to track that as best as they can. It's good to also just pick up any sharp increase or decreases in weight too, to make sure that you're not having any sickness or illness. But then of course, it's just good to make sure that around certain stressful events or parts of your life, you're not slipping and seeing this change. And then of course that adds, the next thing you know, you got 30 pounds on you didn't want, and now we're working even harder to manage that. Tracking calories, I think a lot of people track calories. Again, I think calories can be helpful for when we're either trying to gain or lose weight to a certain extent. Just day-to-day tracking calories, I don't even see that as a necessity, especially if you're just not looking to change your weight. Tracking macros would probably be more efficient. I would say the only macro that I really have patients track is protein. Protein is the most helpful macro. Even when we're adding or losing weight, I still have them tracking protein. And then lastly, random wearables that track everything else now that we have that. So I'm sure you have patients that are getting reports on their pulse day to day. There are new fancy ones that can even tell you if you are going into AFib. And they're very advanced for patients who have heart issues, heart disease. These are super great to make sure we're catching times where your heart is stressed or going through issues. But yes, I would say this is where it's been at, but there are other things that I would say not as well known to track. And so like cardiovascular improvement using HRV, heart rate variability testing, is super, super helpful to really explain the function of the heart and the nervous system together. So making sure that we are understanding how the heart fluctuates with stress, with how we breathe, the parasympathetic versus sympathetic, where we're in which certain parts of the day, and then can we put ourselves in this area of effort stress and come back to normal baseline? And if we can, or it's very difficult, that we'll call it aberrant swing and not management, healthy management, shows poor HRV and ultimately can show poor mortality over time. Metabolic change, we're talking blood markers, we're talking insulin, we're talking other types of health metrics to show. We've even talked about doing metabolism testing with Micah, and there's some pretty advanced testing out there that can show things that you're more predisposed to doing, or how maybe you should be doing certain things, what foods you should be consuming, how you should be exercising, should you fast, should you not. These are going to be advanced tests that a lot of people are going to be, should be using in the future to really become more aware about how they should be behaving as far as health metrics and health activities. Nervous system load, again, I think we're talking more HRV there. And then muscle preservation. Now there are tests, this was done by Dr. Galpin. He said he was doing tests with his athletes that would check in on basically their muscular content and their size of their body every 4 weeks. And this was done to make sure that even post an injury, are they getting atrophy in certain areas after this injury occurred, and can we see change bigger or smaller after 4 weeks? Over every year getting this test done, are you losing how many % of your muscle mass every year? Are you not? This is important information because as we age, muscle mass is a huge predictor of longevity, mortality, and it's important that we maintain it as long as we can into later years in life. So I would say these are going to be the areas that we're going to be jumping into, and if we can start tracking these, that gives us a much better idea of how to coach you and what you should be doing day to day, other than just tracking the basics.
Stated. And a lot of this, like Doc said, is looking at why are we tracking this? We want to have a better long-term recovery. We want to have better health in our later ages, and also currently right now. And what you don't track usually gets put to the wayside, and that's why building this stuff out and putting these habits into your everyday life is a bigger, important step. Doc, you were talking about steps and 10,000, 7,000 steps. Even building up in terms of 1 day a week, putting a strong bout of effort together to where you're sweating and almost grasping for air is also so incredibly important. It's almost a better predictor for aerobic capacity, for how your lungs, your heart, your vascular system, your nervous system are functioning all together, which kind of dives us into the numero uno thing to track, and what most people have not ever tracked before, which is known as the VO2 Max.
Yes.
Now, back to what Doc was saying in terms of mortality, a strong predictor of mortality, but linking to cardiovascular, mitochondrial densities. A bigger thing that we can all focus on is how everything's working together. If you want to get this tested, you can always ChatGPT, specific ways you can test it yourself, or go and type in VO2 Max Center nearby. They'll measure everything for you. It's much easier, simpler way, and even paying like $80 to like a couple $100.
I would agree.
Or so.
Yeah. I had it done when I was in college.
Okay.
But I haven't done it since. But I would say the wearables do a somewhat decent job of tracking VO2 max as well. But if you want truly to understand VO2 max, then what kind of a test is it? The treadmill test, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They measure the oxygen, what's coming into your body versus CO2, what's coming out. So when they're essentially, you're going about effort, whether it's on a bike, on a treadmill, elliptical you can do, you're just putting as much output or effort work that you can out in a specific period of time, and they want to see how much essentially they can push you. And what that shows is what oxygen you're utilizing is what energy demands that your body can output essentially in that period of time. So understanding what your body can actually output will be a very strong predictor with a lot of the other systems the body are functioning underlying in the background essentially.
I really love some of the longevity experts who talk about VO2 max, and they mention that if there's one metric that proves that you have been putting a bout of effort consistently into your health, and it's something you cannot buy, is VO2 max. He goes, You truly cannot purchase anything that will increase your VO2 max just as if you were to take a statin to lower your cholesterol. There's nothing on this earth other than consistently going through bouts of effort that will raise your VO2 max.
Can't buy it.
Nope. And he goes, that's the one that I think, shows you've earned it.
Yes.
Shows that you've put in the work and you've done what's needed to make sure that you've maintained aerobic capacity and good health. Nobody wants to run, nobody wants to do that, but again, that's what we sit and we preach. Unfortunately, that is what keeps us on this earth as long as possible.
Love that.
Yep.
Which dives us into our next one, grip strength testing. Now, you can do this a couple different ways. There's a hand dynamometer that you can purchase on Amazon for $20, $30. They can get a little bit more expensive, but essentially what we are tracking is nervous system regulation, especially if you feel stressed for periods of time. Testing this, and I went through a bout of this, gosh, it's probably been a good 8 months, a year ago or so, on every single day testing my grip strength and correlating that for me to stress levels and sleep. And there was a direct correlation to less grip strength on average comparing from right and left hand comparatively to, and it was less strength when I was stressed, when I wasn't sleeping well. So it has a good understanding, and if you have a good baseline and you test it consistently for a week straight, average the left and right arm out for a whole week, you'll have a baseline from that time. You add in and do that maybe twice a week after that first week bout, and then maybe it's a once a week from there, so you can just double test your regulation, or if you feel like you're stressed out or you're overwhelmed, you have it right by, test it, see how you are, and then that can either push you down into different categories of stress management, of sleep regulation. That's another way to test yourself, but you take a long-term stint of all this data, it'll give you a better understanding in terms of trends moving forward, essentially.
I believe the adult male range is 60 to 70, and then females, I believe, is 40 to 50, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But yeah, I would say that one has gotten more popular. I feel a lot more influencers talking about grip strength, but they've been measuring grip strength for many years.
100%.
But yeah, my favorite part about grip strength is seeing patients' musculoskeletal integrity as well.
Yes.
There are a lot of times where patients have come in with an injury of their neck, but obviously we know the neck has nerves that go out to the arms, and when we see weakened grip strength, now we're thinking, we have seen a peripheralization to the arms, and now we need to start improving that messaging, that flow. Otherwise, the nerve capacity could continue to get worse. You're going to have more weakness, and you might even have permanent issues if you don't take care of that.
Well stated.
Yeah.
Well stated. Which brings us into our next one, numero 3, waist to height ratio.
Yes.
And honestly, I don't remember the last time I ever checked my waist to height ratio. It was probably back in undergrad and college. But for most people, especially in this day and age with the obesity, overweight crisis going on, some of these numbers will be very shocking to most. And if that's something that you want to make sure you're good long-term wise, this goes back to insulin resistance. This goes back into how well your body can metabolize glucose or the sugars that come in your body, essentially. So it's a really good predictor for BMI or body mass index as well. So essentially, Doc, for the waist to height ratio, have you used this with patients before yourself?
We don't use waist to height. We also don't use BMI though. I would say the waist to height is easy to do, and it's very helpful just to get an understanding of overall metabolic composition.
Yes.
You're just going to measure yourself at the navel. So you're going to do a circumference of the navel, and then you'll divide that by your height. And I believe that's in inches. So you'll take inches around navel divided by inches in height. And obviously you want that to be lower, because that means the closer it is, if it's a 1-to-1 ratio, stomach to height, we aren't doing very well in that category. So you want that number to be lower. Now, Other ways that I would say metabolic measurement can be helpful is measuring blood markers.
Yes.
And so what we do when we are measuring certain areas of metabolism, hormone health, cardiovascular health, and even just overall general health, there are, I would say, for just longevity purposes, there are 5 major ones that we look at to make sure patients understand where, kind of a nice snapshot of where they are in time. So number 1, ApoB testing, and that looks at all the atherogenic particles in your body. And we've even seen research showing that ApoB is a better predictor of cardiovascular events than, let's say, LDL-C testing.
Ooh, love that.
And ApoB is starting to get more popular. I think more people are requesting it because they're just seeing more information on it. People are talking more about it. But it is a helpful snapshot of cardiovascular health among the other basic metrics that you would measure for heart issues.
Well stated.
The next would be HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein. This is a phenomenal measurement of the amount of inflammation that you have in your body. And this can also be a good sensitive test for autoimmune issues. If you have just overall inflammation at a whole, leaky gut, do you respond to negatively respond to certain allergens in foods commonly? Are you sick all the time? These are all things that can correlate to a higher HSCRP level. With that, what should we be doing? Anti-inflammatory diets. We're going to be removing, getting you to detox, getting a lot of these inflammatory toxins out of your body, everything that we've talked about in the past. So that's going to be a helpful marker. Next would be fasting insulin. Insulin is such a crucial hormone to monitor. It is, what's crazy is you only have about a teaspoon of insulin in your body regulating your blood glucose at all times.
That's crazy to think about.
And I believe it was, I can't remember who was saying this, but like just an extra teaspoon could separate you and death.
Wow.
It is that much. And so when we're talking about blood glucose management, insulin, if we can create a healthy, sensitive insulin receptor long-term, that is how we are going to create longevity very easily over time. And a lot of these longevity experts use insulin as one of their sole metrics to measure how healthy someone is and making sure that their metabolism improves over time. Now, we just know when patients are gaining weight and they're more stressed, they don't work out, that insulin sensitivity gets worse. It's called insulin resistance. And that over time can create many changes, not just gaining weight. We've seen changes in sleep health. We've seen changes in anxiety, depression with these scores. We've seen a lot of different changes over time with insulin resistance. So that is going to be one that we want to measure and make sure that we improve. Now, the next would be hemoglobin A1C, which somewhat ties to insulin. It just shows a snapshot of how your blood glucose has been in the last 3 months. Hemoglobin A1C at that time tells you what has your body been in the last few months, and now what should we be pushing you towards as far as a healthier blood glucose measurement. And then lastly, I would say serum creatinine with a EGF score, or excuse me, a GFR score, to just show kidney health can be really helpful for predicting all-cause mortality. Kidney health is a very great predictor of mortality, and there are other kidney metrics that you're going to obviously see in these blood panels, but that one is going to be just helpful for overall measurement. I would say some other honorary mentions would be ferritin, IGF-1 can also be helpful. What else would be good? Homocysteine is another inflammatory marker, can be good predictor for heart issues as well. And then I would say like an omega-3 index, making sure you are managing and making sure your omega-3 ratio 3 to 6 is accurate. It's a good predictor again of inflammatory change, heart issues. But those are going to be ones that if you start measuring throughout time and negative or positive changes, carries a lot of weight than just doing a simple CBC, CMP. Yes, those are helpful as well, but getting more information, wanting to see actual specific result changes to your metabolism, hormone health, cardiovascular change, that's going to be where I would go.
And essentially, you target most all systems of the body.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I didn't even touch on hormones. There are definitely other other things that with my blood panel, there's about 75 markers we look at. These are just the top ones that I think a lot of people like to talk about, and it makes sense because they do make a great change on patients' health.
Yeah, so essentially, like, this could be obviously personalized to you. We'd want this to be as personalized to you as we possibly can, quite frankly. So whether you have certain symptoms related to maybe dysfunction in your thyroid or other maybe hormone levels, you can also add that in and double check that on a quarterly, bi-yearly, yearly basis.
And a great place to start is with a physician. They're going to be the one that's going to help you personalize and choose which panels work best for you. Now, in my opinion, I would work with a functional health doctor, a functional medicine provider. They have a little bit more training when it comes to advanced testing blood panels. Your family medicine doctor, not to say that they just don't consistently order those kinds of tests. They tend to stick to the more basic panels, usually because it's covered by insurance. They want to just make sure they help you with that matter. But you can now get advanced blood panel testing for a couple $100. Superhuman is one that does thousands of dollars worth of tests for a couple $100. Rhythm Health does not a lot, but you can do it every month for $70, and they have 10 or 15 markers, 20 markers you can do. My panel can cost the patients anywhere from a few $100 to more, depending on what they want to see. And again, all this, if you go to your general provider, can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars if not covered by insurance. So again, working with these providers, we would definitely want you to have these metrics, but also save you as much money as possible.
And a lot of the important things with some of the functional practitioners, you guys look at trends as well. And yes, you guys have the amount of patients that you guys do, but at the same time, if you're looking as in depth as you guys are, it helps pay a better indication long term instead of some of the basics on the LDL, HDL, which, like you said, is important.
It is.
But it's taking another depth and layer to the whole process of all your systems, essentially.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which that brings us into our fifth and final one in terms of the resting heart rate and heart rate variability. Doc brought this up previously in terms of stress management. Are you more stressed, and then are you able to bring your stress back to center or homeostasis, essentially easier, quicker? And this comes in ways of using your Whoop, Garmin, Fitbit to check how your vascular system is, how your stress management, nervous system regulation is. There's a bunch of different ways that you can go about this, but most commonly people notice this on some of their wearables and AI trackers, essentially.
Yeah, and resting heart rate can be helpful to detect illness. It can detect cardiovascular change. It can detect stress load. It can test and give you information on like recovery and recovery debt and what you need to be doing to manage recovery, workload, exercise load, stress load. All of these markers can really help give us a picture of where you're at right now.
Love that. So let's break this down to the dashboard. In a sec here, we'll make this and we'll show you how to and set all this up. But essentially all the stuff that Doc brought up, I brought up on tracking. So whether it's your resting heart rate or you take a weekly snapshot or report from your wearables and put that into AI, or just keep that in a separate document. You can add it as a picture into a Word document, for example. Taking and going and get labs done either at your nearest lab place, but then again, that goes through going through a physician as well. So they'll have a better resource for you, essentially. But Doc, for those, in terms of lab testing, where would you start most people on in terms of frequency a year to get some of the labs?
I would say no less than once a year. Now, some patients want and may need more testing frequently through the year. There are times where I have to do about once a quarter, depending on what we're doing with them. But yeah, at a minimum, once a year, a large panel for sure.
Well stated. So tracking that into the whole system. Even the VO2 Max, I think twice a year would be smart starting off with, and then you can go once a year for maybe the second, third year or so would be very smart. and then tracking the heart rate variability, tracking some even your sleep scores, as much metrics as you can on a weekly basis, but keeping it simple for you. That's why we like Whoop, because a lot of this is breaking down into a weekly, monthly basis, and it tracks everything from our objective data. Did you sleep well at night? Did you consume alcohol? Like all these other metrics it asks you on a daily basis, it'll put into one document, and in addition to that, it'll bring your stress scores, heart rate variability, so many other things, effort scores. So again, tracking will help significantly throughout this whole system. So a lot of this collecting data, after you collect the data, then it's what do you do with that data? And that's where we come into more or less like the weekly check-in, essentially. So what works best for most people, Sunday night, check your wearables, take a notebook, write in how well you did that week as a broad overview. If you want to go more specific, take a notebook, daily basis, or just even on your phone, type it in.
I actually just screenshot on my Whoop app.
Perfect, simple enough. And you input the date or date range, essentially putting it into a Word document, and or if you want to be more specific, any AI, which we'll get into how to build that here in a sec. So whether it's your heart rate variability, resting heart rate, sleeping consistency, grip strength, left to right, waist to height ratio, even get into some cardio zone 2 work, or how much effort you can do cardio-wise while still having a conversation, essentially. Strength workouts sessions, energy scores, stress scores 1 to 10. Do you have a lot of energy today? Maybe it's an 8 to 10. Did you have way more stress today? Way more stress, maybe an 8 to 10. So there's a parameter, and you can start tracking it that way. Now, in terms of actually building this out, which I think is the most important in my opinion, especially long term, we can go back to tracking it as a whole AI prompt, whether that's using Gemini with Google, and that works and pulls through Google Docs. It can integrate everything incredibly well there. Or if you want to use with your Apple account, and putting that to ChatGPT. But for example, on the screen, we'll build this out together so you have a good understanding. Let's say your role, who you are as a person. I am, for example, a performance longevity physician, or I am an office worker, dad of 5, husband, and a weekend warrior, essentially. So who you are as a person, maybe from the eyes of a physical health standpoint, and also you can bring in some other objectives in there. The context, so I'm a 30-plus male chiropractor. Strength is, and focus on strength. Training 4 or 5 days a week using Whoop app or using Garmin, using whatever technology. My goal is longevity, strength, nervous system resilience, family history, maybe a metabolic risk, and then primary constraint, time, business stress. And then I track everything from all the stuff we've tracked in terms of either labs, grip strength, heart rate variability, sleep, all this stuff. And you can add specifics of the values in there. The next section is to analyze my last 4 weeks of data and identify 1, signals of metabolic drift, signals of nervous system overload, and give me 1 adjustment to help protect my long-term slope or trend, which exactly what Doc said is very important. And then the parameters on focus on trends, avoid supplement first thinking, and then prioritize sleep, aerobic based recovery. So puts barriers onto how broad the scope can get essentially with this search. And then the expected outcome is trend analysis, which is very important, risk alerts, ideally sooner than later, and then 1 high ROI lever that you can implement today. On the screen, you'll see the example. We'll put in ChatGPT. As you can see, all the results. Now, again, this is an example of us, myself, but we want this to be personalized to you on that side of things.
Absolutely.
So, Doc, in terms of maybe some mistakes or things that people may leave out? What are certain things that are maybe catch-alls for certain patients or people to start thinking about to input this into their database?
I would say AI is not the doctor. We want it to act like one, but we don't want it to substitute the doctor. So we want to make sure we set it up as a mainframe of how it's thinking. Don't put in place and actually use it as that. It's really just a tool to give you information. Now, if there are things that pop up with your health that are concerning, that you feel like is different, or it's just gotten to a point where you've really felt quite ill or not feeling like yourself, yes, this is helpful, but we would much rather you start with a physician, and then once everything is cleared, checked, and you're ready to get started, use them as a resource as well, and then start to collect that data that they're helping you collect over time. And really, why I think also this could be helpful is, let's say you do go to a general provider and they do a good job and they got you your blood work that they felt was necessary, and they made sure that you weren't really sick, or they tracked everything they should have. My guess is, though, they only spent 10, 15 minutes with you, and you're lucky to get that. So what this could be is a tool to get more information on your own time that you can digest, that's maybe more helpful, that you can then ask AI questions about as well. What is this blood marker, and what should I know about it?
Why is it important?
Because I could assure you that they didn't go marker by marker. They just said, hey, this is what stood out, this is what needed to do, it's this medication, that's what we're looking at. It's not, hey, this was normal, this is normal, this is what this is. They don't probably take and go over that with you. So what I would recommend then is, if you are curious, and you should be, that's where this can be a helpful tool to ask questions about your own data and start to become an expert of your health. And you don't understand how crucial that's going to be the more you know about yourself and understand these metrics. It may sound like it's difficult to understand, but once you understand them, and you can maybe even ask AI to explain it in a very simple manner, it's going to be much more helpful for you down the road.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
If you guys are paying attention to some of our recent episodes on especially the digital twin, there's a reason why we are hammering this home consistently over and over. It's the trends. It's collecting data from your past, which is essentially right now, if you're not started, to present to future. So essentially what is going on is, with research, with health industry, there's a whole digital twin of yourself that you can make based on your metabolics, based on your nervous system, based on all the metrics that you can possibly think. You take these tests, it uploads the information, builds your digital twin, and it runs different modalities through it, what works best for your body. But in order to optimize your digital twin, you need past information, and that is essentially
and a lot of it. Yes. So if you start building it now, your digital twin will be much more comprehensive once you get to that point.
Yes, which will help with everything else.
Yes. All right. Until next time, guys, we'll see you on another one.
Disclaimer: the content provided in this health podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast is solely at your own risk. The creators and hosts of this podcast are not responsible for any actions or decisions you may take based on the information presented.
Thanks for joining us on The Functional Code. For more evidence-based health insights, subscribe, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, your journey to a healthier you begins with understanding the functional code. Until next time, stay well, stay informed, and embrace the science of living well.